Hello, and welcome to this overview of impoverished lords in historical romance books. I'm Olivia, your favorite resource for book recommendations you can easily screenshot, and you're watching Random Olive Reads. A Duke's Guide to Romance by Sophie Barnes is book one of the Gentleman Authors series. Impoverished Duke Anthony is worrying about how to secure funds for his sister's future debut and is considering marriage to a wealthy daughter of a viscount. He stumbles upon a bookshop and meets a charming young lady, Ada, who works there and lives with her uncle. At first, he hides the fact that he's a duke and enjoys a friendship with Ada, and she makes an observation that romance novels, like those from Jane Austen, sell quite well. Anthony takes the idea back to his two friends and proposed that they should write a romance novel together to sell to make money. Anthony and Ada continue their friendship, and he does ultimately tell her who he is. It's a relatively sweet development of their relationship despite their differences in social station. There's some meddling and scheming from the lady that Anthony is purportedly courting, but that eventually gets resolved with some open communication. Overall, this is an interesting start to this series of gentleman authors. Just Wicked Enough by Lorraine Heath is book two of the Rogues and Roses series. An impoverished Marquis holds an auction with the wealthiest American fathers to sell himself in matrimony to the highest bidder. We end up with an arranged marriage between Kate, the younger daughter of an American banker, with Michael, a cold and unemotional Marquis. They're both keeping secrets from each other, but still try to very slowly get to know each other after the wedding. Michael is lonely and unloved, mostly because his mother can't remember him with her dementia and is kept in an asylum. Kate is pining over her lost love, who her parents accused of being a fortune hunter and has now married someone else. That leaves both Michael and Kate terribly unsure of themselves and in a bit of an animosity filled relationship. Even with the physical attraction that's apparent from the beginning, this one is a slow burn relationship with each person slowly learning to trust the other. An Aris for All Seasons by Sophie Jordan is book one and a half of the Debutante Files series. This one's a quick, relatively low angst novella. Violet is an American heiress being shown off around England by her title seeking mother. She has no intention of marrying anyone in England since she has a suitor back home, but goes along with her parents until they accept her other suitor. Will is an impoverished earl being set up by his mother to meet Violet, but has no interest in getting married until he actually meets her and is intrigued by her. He spends most of his time trying to pursue her, even though she rebuffs him. And at some point, they get stuck in a cabin together during a snowstorm. This one was easy peasy with a fun, flirty spice. Portraits, Passion, and Other Pastimes by Charlie Lane is book one of the Art of Love series. A financially irresponsible Marquis puts his family's livelihood in danger by overspending money on art and frivolity instead of taking care of his estate. When his eldest son Raph learns of the financial state when the steward quits, he shoulders the burden of the responsibility to keep them afloat. Unfortunately, he also needs to dismiss his sister's governess Matilda because there's no money to pay her, and he promises her to always help her find a suitable position. 15 years later, the Marquis has passed away, and Raph is still struggling with all of the bills. His father has donated all of his art, leaving none of it left over for his children to sell, except for 5 items, which each person needs to earn by creating a piece of art themselves and presenting it to their mother for approval. With no talent and no time for frivolity, Raph knows that he won't be able to come up with anything. So he's going to try to figure out another plan. Meanwhile, his mother is like wailing and grieving and distracting him from getting any work done. He decides to hire his mother a companion and looks for Matilda as the best candidate. She's been a governess and a companion in the past 15 years and is planning to move to her own cottage. While she rejects Raph's offer to start with, the lady she's currently with suggests that they go along to help the Marchioness deal with her grief. Raph is also trying to marry an heiress to help save the estate, but doesn't feel anything for the lady he's courting. With everyone back at the estate, Raph and Matilda spend more time together and try to resist their attraction, but it only goes so far. An Earl Like You by Caroline Linden is book 2 of the Wagers of Sin series. Hugh has inherited a mountain of debt from his father and decides not to burden his grieving family with the truth of their financial circumstances. Things grow more dire when Hugh's sister is courting a Viscount's son who will very likely expect a healthy dowry when they ultimately get engaged. A conniving businessman uses Hugh's secret financial circumstances to coerce him into courting and marrying his daughter Eliza. While Hugh is hesitant at first, he pretty quickly realizes that the shy and kind Eliza is not part of this scheme, and he thinks that she's a suitable candidate for marriage. Eliza was perfectly happy being a spinster and is very surprised to find one of her father's business associates paying attention to her. Without knowing about the deal made by her father and Hugh, she happily accepts the proposal. While Eliza is rebuffed by her new in laws at first, she slowly starts to earn their acceptance through her kindness and caring personality. Hugh's actions are questionable throughout the book, but he's clearly attempting to protect his family as best as he can. How to Best a Marquess by Jana McGregor is book 3 of the Widow Rule series. The prologue here consists of a very charming proposal from Julian to Beth, but things didn't quite turn out the way they expected. 8 years later, Beth is now one of 3 widows of a duke's younger brother and was not actually married to the man at all. In a quest to recover her lost dowry and get away from her older brother's influence, she looks for the destitute Julian, who's now a marquess, for assistance. She's offering him half the money in payment if he will help her. We follow with a road trip and second chance romance, though Beth is adamant that she will never get married, and she knows that her reputation will be detrimental to the honorable Julian's reputation. Julian, however, just wants to convince Beth that he's sorry for walking away from her all those years ago when her brother denied his proposal. Poor Julian here just can't seem to catch a break, and then, of course, we have your stereotypical road trip romance. Duchess by Design by Maya Rodal is book 1 of the Gilded Age Girls Club series. Adeline is a seamstress with dreams of opening her own dress shop and has a meet cute with an impoverished duke in a hotel lobby. Brandon is in New York to look for a wealthy heiress to marry and is instantly smitten by Adeline and thinks that he is super lucky to have found an heiress he likes right in the lobby of his hotel. Unfortunately, he realizes that she is not wealthy and can't really help him, so he's got to begrudgingly meet and court other women. Meanwhile, Adeline is still working on her unique dress designs and trying to find ways to show them off. When Brandon suggests that Adeline help him with the insider information on the heiresses, he promises to escort her to various events so that she can show off her gowns. It's pretty much painful pining for everyone involved. Brandon will have to work out how to deal with his money problem if he wants to end up with Adeline. The Duke Gets Even by Joanna Shoup is book 4 of the Fifth Avenue Rebels series. If you read the first 3 books in the series, you'll have seen hints of an uneasy relationship between Nellie and the Duke of Lockwood. Nellie is everyone's scandalous best friend with knowledge about affairs and men. Meanwhile, the destitute Duke of Lockwood needs an American heiress to marry for money. In book 1, he was engaged to Maddie for about a day, and that didn't work out. In book 2, he's almost courting our favorite sweet Alice until he realizes another man's in the picture and bows out. And in book 3, he has sworn off courting anyone from this unlucky friend group, but is still kind of friendly with Catherine. Well, we finally get to see his true nature and desires here in book 4 with Nellie. We go back to the beginning of the Newport house party from book 1 and 2, where Lockwood and Nellie meet as strangers at the beach at midnight, and after some flirting and kissing, they plan for a tryst the next day. However, when Lockwood shows up at the house party the next day and is introduced to all the guests, he and Nellie realize that the connection is impossible and over. We meet again in 6 months after Nellie's other friends are all settled, and Nellie is feeling listless and aimless since all her friends are married and don't really need her anymore. Plus, Lockwood's still looking for a docile and wealthy bride. What starts as angry flirting turns into an angry affair, with neither of these people wanting to engage their hearts. Lockwood has some secrets of his own with a health condition, plus, Nellie is unwilling to risk her emotions after her mother died at a young age. There's basically a lot of self denial here and two people unwilling to sacrifice their emotions, but hopefully they get it together. The Aris Gets a Duke by Harper St. George is a book one of the Gilded Age heiresses series. So we start with a semi-tragic prologue for an American heiress being married off to a much older and impoverished duke in England against her wishes. August is one of the friends here who sees how awful it is and is thankful that her parents aren't forcing the same situation. Fast forward to a few months later when August visits England with her parents and her younger sister, and her parents are doing exactly what she was afraid of. They attempt to set up a match between younger sister Violet and impoverished Duke Evan, but August intends to thwart it. It doesn't matter much because Evan prefers the feisty August instead and tries to convince her to marry him. He needs the money because his father's antiquated ideals have left the estate in a lot of debt, and the tenants on his lands are suffering. August refuses because she would rather work for her father's company and has no interest in becoming a duchess. There's a lot of persuasion involved here, even though these two are very clearly attracted to each other. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hopefully you found a book or two to add to your TBR. Links to all of these books are in the description box. Like and subscribe to get updates, and you can follow me on Instagram at randomolive.